I remember my grandmother, first of all, was pretty poor because she'd been a widow for 40 years by the time she was 65.
My grandparents were lovely people, but they were farmers and they were very, very busy. They were earning a living, and although they loved us and were very kind, they didn't have time to indulge us.
I had a very unusual grandmother for the times who traveled around, drove all the way around the United States when she was 80.
My furthest grandparent was 10 miles away and my closest was just a couple of miles, so we saw them more frequently.
I never knew my grandparents. They were all in Europe and they couldn't come to this country.
We grew up very close to our grandparents. We all came from an agricultural background. We lived close to each other. Our interests were all the same.
I feel that I'm much more modern than my grandmother was. And maybe you don't think I'm so modern, but anyway.
Hopefully maybe they don't think that we're quite as old as what maybe I viewed my grandparents.
I think that grandchildren see their grandparents very differently today, thanks to trips like the one that we're on with Road Scholar, simply because they're seeing them in a more intimate and setting. We're sharing space together, we live in the same room, and also because we're doing more creative, interesting things outside. It's not just a question of baking cookies for the grandchildren. So it's a whole different perspective. We're sharing things together that we'll value forever.
But I do remember as a kid reading books about grandparents in fact grandmothers taking grandchildren to Europe. And I thought, oh my goodness, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to do that? And here I am doing it.
If I was describing my grandmother to my friends, I would say that she's fun. She likes to do things with us. She has a busy life and she likes to do things with her friends.
She's really nice and she takes me on a bunch of trips, and she's really generous, and yeah.
They're great people. They always travel everywhere. They're really nice and you just got to meet them. They're great people.
We'll pay you later.
I see her a little differently. I see her as much more mature than I had realized. You know, I thought of her as my little granddaughter, and she's a real person.
I've really enjoyed this program also, and I've loved being with Anne.
Me too.
It's been fun.
Sharing this experience with my granddaughter was something that I've dreamed of, and now that it's coming true, I realize I want to spend more time with her, and I'm thinking about more adventures that we can have.
I very much enjoy the experience of being with one grandchild at a time, which is rare for me. He seems more comfortable overall, and as though I'm someone he'd confide in. He's at a stage where kids often break off from their grandparents, and that hasn't happened, happily.
I just love being a grandparent. I think it's the best of all possible worlds because you get the good parts. Anything that's not so entertaining, then you hand them back to the parents and say, I think these are yours.